Well, we'll start, Chris, with the moment that you heard that Steve McClaren might become Newcastle manager, because if I remember correctly, in what might be Lee Charnley's only ever interview with the Chronicle with our editor Mark Douglas, Charnley said he had 80 applicants for the job, sold them as high flyers, really good applicants, and we somehow got down to one, which was Steve McClaren.
Yeah, well, this was actually sort of my baptism of fire, really, because it was the first season I'd covered Newcastle for the Chronicle. I'd been working down in London at the Mail Online down there, but we'd had wind through our North East reporter that Steve McClaren was the one that they wanted. They initially approached him in January, when not long after Alan Pardew had left to go to Crystal Palace at the turn of the year, and initially it seemed McClaren wanted to come, but Derby were reluctant to let him go. And interestingly, McClaren did an interview with Premier League World last week where basically he said that the way that was handled, the way that he was almost flirting with the club publicly, even though he wasn't saying too much, probably had a detrimental effect both on Newcastle and Derby, which proved to be the case. I mean, eventually John Carver took over in that temporary period, and Newcastle went on a horrendous run, got sucked into the relegation zone, only survived on the final day of the season, and then McClaren was sacked by Derby. And yet Newcastle had decided that the way they wanted to move forward, to change from a manager to a head coach, quote unquote, and Steve McClaren was the man that they thought could fit into the model. Graham Carr was very influential in that. He's someone who'd worked with him before. And so essentially Newcastle created what was what they called a football board, which consisted of 4 directors: Lee Charnley, the managing director; Steve McClaren, head coach; chief scout, who was effectively a de facto director of football in Graham Carr; and then also club ambassador Bob Moncur also got put on the board, which I think was a mistake. I thought the whole thing was a mistake, but putting Bob Moncur in that conflicted position I thought was strange.